There comes a moment in every person's journey when the world begins to shift subtly at first. Like the changing of a season, the rustling of autumn leaves that fall not with noise, but with quiet purpose. You may not have realized it yet, but you are standing at the edge of a threshold, a spiritual turning point, and your entire life, is about to change so fast. It won't even feel real, but let me tell you something important, my friend. This change is not meant to frighten you. It is not meant to unbalance you. It is, in fact, what your soul has been preparing for all along. Let me take you back to a time when I was younger, living at the base of the Himalayan mountains. There was an old monk I revered greatly, Master Rinzin. He rarely spoke. But one morning, as I struggled with doubt and impatience about my purpose, he placed his hand on my shoulder and said only this: "When the river rushes, let it flow. Just don't lose your footing." I didn't understand what he meant then, but over time, as life pulled me through storms, confusion, and silence, I began to see the wisdom in his words. Life will rush, it will crash over you. Sometimes it will take everything with it: your plans, your pride, even your peace. But if you remain rooted in mindfulness, if you stay present, you will not be swept away. Now, you might feel this rush coming already, a sudden urgency, a strange knowing that something is changing. Though you can't quite explain it, this is no coincidence, your intuition. The quiet voice of your soul is trying to guide you. It whispers in the stillness, "Get ready, it's time." But preparation does not mean doing more. It means being more aware, more aligned, more awake. Look around your life. Ask yourself, what no longer feels like it fits? What people or patterns feel like weights you keep dragging? Where are you holding tension, and why? We cannot welcome the new if our hands are full of the old. In my own journey, I've learned this: when the soul is ready to grow, the world around you will begin to fall apart, not as punishment, but as preparation. Just like a seed must split open for the tree to emerge, you must allow your old self to crack, to make space for who you're becoming. And let me reassure you, the cracking will not destroy you. It will awaken you. One evening, deep in meditation, I had a vision of myself standing in the middle of a vast storm. Trees bending, lightning flashing, wind howling, and yet, I was still. In that stillness, I heard the voice again: "This too is your path. Do not run from the wind, it's clearing the way." Many people mistake discomfort for danger, but discomfort is the soul's invitation to grow beyond what you've known. It's the divine push that says, you weren't meant to stay here, you're meant to evolve. So if you feel the ground shifting under you, don't grip harder. Don't resist, breathe, listen, trust. There is a sacred intelligence guiding your journey even if you can't see the whole map yet. Sometimes, the storm is not here to take you off course, it's here to reveal the path you were too afraid to walk. Now is your moment to let go of fear, of pretending, of living in delay. The life you are meant for, the one that's speeding toward you, is one of presence, peace, and power. But you must be willing to shed the weight of what no longer serves your becoming. In the monastery, we had a tradition. Before any great transition, we would sit in silence at dawn for 7 days. We would ask ourselves, what must I release to walk with grace into what's next? So I ask you now, in your own silence, what is calling to be released? What must be forgiven, untied, or simply left behind? You are not broken, you are becoming. And the speed at which your life begins to shift will feel surreal, not because it's wrong, but because it's right. Your spirit has been ready for longer than you know. The door is opening. Will you walk through it? This is only the beginning, dear soul. There are more truths to uncover, more stories to share, and more wisdom to be received. And so we shall continue. In the next moment, the next breath, the next page of this unfolding journey. When we ended our last moment together, I asked you something. What must be released to walk with grace into what's next? Perhaps you sat quietly after that question. Or maybe you carried it into your day, letting it settle into the corners of your heart like incense smoke curling into a silent room. Either way, you're here now, and that means something. It means a part of you is ready, even if the rest is still catching up. Let me tell you a story that was told to me by my teacher when I was still a novice. There once was a man who lived near the edge of a cliff. For years, he feared falling, so he never left his cottage. He watched birds fly, wind shift, clouds pass, but his feet stayed planted inside. One day, a great storm came and shattered the door. Wind howled through, tearing away the walls. He was left with nothing but open sky and trembling limbs. At first, he wept. Then he stepped forward. He had no walls left to hide behind. And so, he learned to walk slowly toward the cliff's edge. He never fell. Instead, he saw the horizon for the first time. Most of us fear the storm. But what if the storm is the universe breaking down what no longer protects you, so that you may finally step into freedom? There's something important I want you to remember now. Change is not punishment. Change is permission. You are being permitted to outgrow your past, You are being permitted to shed your skin, even if it once fit you well. You are being permitted to dream bigger, feel deeper, and live more truthfully, but permission means nothing unless you accept it. Many people pray for signs, for blessings, for new beginnings, but when the moment arrives, they freeze, they doubt. They shrink back into what is familiar, even if the familiar is painful. Why? Because the mind craves comfort, but the soul craves growth, and these two often disagree. Look at this stream. It moves without asking why the river bends the way it does. It doesn't fight the rocks or resist the downward flow. It simply trusts, and in that trust, it shapes the landscape itself. You, too, are shaping the unseen with every step you take. Through this shift, you may feel emotions rise unexpectedly. You might find yourself letting go of people you once thought you'd never live without. Or you may wake up and realize that the things you used to chase no longer excite your spirit. This is not confusion, this is clarity unfolding. So be patient with yourself. I once went through a season where I questioned everything, why I had taken this path, why I gave up worldly pleasures for silence and stillness. I would sit in the early morning, hearing only the calls of birds and the occasional sweep of wind through pine needles, and ask, is this enough? Then one evening, a young traveler arrived at the monastery. She was weary and heavy-hearted. She asked me nothing about meditation or prayer or practice. She just said, I don't know how to keep going. We sat for hours, no lessons, no advice, just presence. When she left, she turned and said, this stillness saved me. And I understood then that a peaceful life is not a small life, it is a powerful one. So if your life feels quieter now, less full, less busy, less chaotic, do not mistake that for insignificance. This may be the very season your soul has long waited for, the season of sacred return, the season where stillness becomes your sanctuary. Now is the time to ask yourself deeper questions, not the kind that lead to worldly achievement, but the kind that bring you home to yourself. Who am I when no one is watching? What does peace feel like in my body? What do I want to feel more of? And what must I let go of to receive it? Let go of timelines. Let go of the illusion that everything must be figured out. That clarity comes only through answers. No clarity often arrives through surrender, right here, in the chest, where the soul knocks gently, waiting for you to listen. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're blooming quietly, courageously, invisibly. The caterpillar never knows the moment it becomes a butterfly. It simply surrenders to the transformation. So allow it. Allow your life to change faster than you imagined, and instead of holding on, open your arms. The miracles you're meant to receive will arrive not through force, but through softness. A softness you may have forgotten but never truly lost. I can feel it in your energy. This is your threshold. This is the part of your life where you step beyond the old narratives and begin writing a new chapter, one that feels more aligned with your truth, one that breathes instead of battles, one that listens more than it speaks, one where the pace of peace matters more than the race of performance. There is more to this path, and together we will continue. I will share more truths, more lessons, more stories that were given to me not to keep, but to pass on to you, because wisdom is not meant to be hoarded, it is meant to be lived and shared and carried like a lantern into the dark. And so, dear soul, until our next breath together, let this truth remain. You are not late for your life. You are exactly on time for your transformation. You're still here, still listening, still walking this path with me. That means something. It means you're not just watching a video, you're walking a transformation, and perhaps you're beginning to feel it. The subtle shift within, like the moment between inhaling and exhaling, when time stands still and the soul quietly speaks. We live in a world that rushes us from moment to moment, from one goal, one worry, one expectation to the next, but the greatest transformations I've ever witnessed have never been rushed. They've been like sunrises, slow, gradual, inevitable. And this, dear one, is your sunrise. Let me tell you something that may comfort you. Not all change is loud. Not all breakthroughs come with lightning and thunder. Sometimes the most powerful breakthroughs come in silence, in stillness, in solitude. There was a monk in our temple named Kenzin. For 5 years, he never spoke a word. Not because he couldn't, but because he chose not to. He entered what we call mana, the vow of silence. People often misunderstood him. They thought he was shy, or broken, or afraid, but I remember what he told me. Just after his 5th year of silence ended, he said, I thought I was entering silence to avoid the world, but I found that in silence, the world entered me. You see, when the noise of life softens, you begin to hear what was always trying to reach you. Your inner voice, your truth, your calling. So if you've been feeling withdrawn lately, don't be alarmed. If you've lost interest in things that once excited you, don't panic. If you've been spending more time alone, more time reflecting, more time asking what really matters, you are not falling behind, you are falling inward, and that, my friend, is a sacred direction. I remember a time when I was going through my own quiet transformation. I didn't realize it then, but my heart had already begun to change. Before my mind could catch up, I started waking up before the sunrise, not because I was told to, but because something inside me longed for those early hours of stillness. It was during those mornings that I first heard the truth of who I was, not the roles I played, not the expectations placed on me, but the essence behind it all. And here's what I discovered: you don't need to change your whole life overnight. You just need to start living more truthfully today. You don't need to know the final destination. You just need to take one honest step in the direction of your inner peace. We've been taught to seek answers, but I tell you now, seek alignment instead. When your life aligns with your inner truth, everything begins to flow with a quiet harmony. Not without challenge, but without inner conflict. Here is a meditation I offer to you. Something I do often when life begins to move too fast. Breathe in and ask yourself, what am I still holding onto? Breathe out and ask, am I willing to let it go? Breathe in and whisper, I trust what's unfolding. Breathe out and remind yourself, I am safe to grow. You may not get clear answers immediately. That's okay. Growth is not a destination, it is a state of being. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to your soul. Every time you rest when the world pushes you to grind, you reclaim your energy. Every time you choose truth over appearance, you water the roots of your inner life. I want to ask you something personal now. Something only your soul can answer. What would your life look like if you stopped pretending? If you stopped pretending you're okay when you're not. If you stopped pretending you don't care, when in truth, you feel everything deeply. If you stopped pretending you're not ready, when in truth, you've been ready for years. You don't need more permission. You don't need more proof. You need only this moment of courage. The courage to say, I will not delay my transformation any longer, because life is not waiting. The energy around you is moving quickly now. That's why things feel surreal. That's why you're feeling pulled in strange directions. You're not being punished, you're being aligned. Your old self was not wrong. It was necessary. It brought you here, but it cannot walk with you into what's next. You must walk forward, lighter, truer, freer, and yes, it may be scary. But remember this, fear is often the final gate before freedom. Let yourself grieve what was, let yourself bless what no longer fits, and let yourself rise slowly, honestly, bravely. Your life is changing because your soul is ready to live fully. Finally, you are on the path now. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. And in our next moment together, I will guide you deeper into the truths we rarely speak aloud, the ones hidden behind the masks we wear and the stories we carry. We'll go there together. Because you're not alone on this path. You never were. When the soul begins to awaken, the world does not always applaud. Often, it resists. Not because the world is cruel, but because your old environment, your old patterns, and your old identities are still catching up to the truth you're now beginning to embody. You are changing, not on the surface, but deep in the core of your being. And that change, though beautiful, is also disruptive. It shakes loose everything that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Relationships, jobs, habits, even the way you think, speak, and breathe. Many people ask me, why does my growth feel so lonely? And I always offer them this: a tree grows in silence, a river carves mountains not with noise, but persistence. And the most sacred transformations often take place in solitude. You're not being abandoned, you're being cleared of what was only meant to accompany a former version of you. I remember the day I realized my own transformation had become irreversible. It wasn't during a meditation, it wasn't during a ritual, it was while sweeping fallen leaves from the temple courtyard. Something so simple, so quiet. I had done it hundreds of times, but on that day, I noticed I was no longer rushing. I was no longer doing the task, I was being the presence within it. The wind moved, the leaves responded, my breath matched their rhythm, and I knew I had stopped living from the mind and started living from awareness. That is what I want for you, not to escape the world, but to experience it differently. To see with new eyes. To walk with new intention. To speak less from ego and more from essence. When you walk this path of awakening, there will be days when nothing makes sense anymore. You may question why things that once felt safe now feel suffocating. Why the people you once clung to now seem distant. Why joy and grief are showing up together, hand in hand. But this is the paradox of spiritual growth. You are not losing your mind. You are shedding your illusions. Illusions that told you you were only valuable if you were productive. Illusions that made you believe love had to be earned. Illusions that kept you trapped in loops of fear, guilt, and shame. But the truth, you were always enough, even in your silence, even in your stillness, even in your sacred undoing. There's a moment I think about often, a quiet winter night when the entire monastery was asleep. I walked outside to gaze at the stars. There were no words, no thoughts. Only the deep knowing that I was part of something eternal. In that moment, I didn't feel small. I felt sacred. And so are you. You are not here by mistake. You are not watching this by chance. You are being called not to add more to your life but to return to what is real. Let me ask you something now. A question that once changed me. If nothing in your life changed, would you still choose to be who you are today? It's not about changing everything outside. It's about coming home to the truth inside, and that truth is this: you are already whole, you are already worthy, and you are already ready. All that remains is remembrance. In the monastery, we often say, the path isn't ahead of you, it's within you. And that's why the world may feel surreal right now. That's why time feels warped. Why you sense something approaching, even if you can't name it. Because your inner life, the part of you that was long ignored, is awakening. The deeper you go within, the faster life begins to align without, not because you're forcing it, but because your vibration, your energy, your presence begins to match your purpose. You'll notice you'll no longer tolerate environments that drain you. You'll lose interest in pleasing people who never saw your soul. You'll crave slowness, depth, simplicity. This is not regression. It is refinement. You're refining your life into one that reflects your spirit, not your survival. And with that comes one of the greatest truths I can offer you today. You do not have to become anything more to live a life of sacred meaning. You only have to stop pretending that you're not already divine. So breathe now, not to relax, but to return. Inhale not just air, but awareness. Exhale not just tension, but illusion, and feel this moment as it truly is a mirror to message. A gift. You are not just entering a new chapter, you are stepping into an entirely new state of being. And as we continue into the next part of this journey, I will walk with you deeper into the sacred practices that ground us, the ancient lessons that guide us, and the spiritual truths that liberate us. There is more to come, more to feel, more to remember, but for now, hold this close. You are not preparing for your future, you are remembering your truth. And that truth will carry you further than fear ever could. So here we are, you've walked this far, breath by breath, word by word, not just listening, but feeling, and that tells me one thing: you're ready. Ready not just for inspiration, but for transformation. And by now, you may have already started noticing the subtle changes, not in your outer life necessarily, but in your inner orientation. You're more present, more open, more willing to ask yourself, what am I really doing with this one precious life? Let's sit with that question now, not as a thought, but as a mirror. What am I really doing with this one precious life? It's not a question of success, not of status, not of speed. It's a question of alignment, of how closely you're living in harmony with what your soul knows to be true. There's a story from ancient Zen teachings that I often return to. A young monk once asked his master, "What must I do to become enlightened?" The master replied, "Have you finished your rice?" The monk said, "Yes." The master smiled and said, "Then wash your bowl." At first, it sounds simple, even dismissive. But in that moment, the master was teaching a sacred truth. Enlightenment is not a destination. It's devotion to presence. We think transformation happens in climactic moments, in retreats, revelations, or grand awakenings, but often it begins in small acts of awareness. Washing the bowl with presence, walking in silence without rushing, saying thank you and meaning it, choosing love over fear in the quiet moments no one else sees. This is how we live in sacred rhythm with ourselves, with the world, with the divine. There was a period in my journey when I stopped chasing answers and began observing life instead. I watched the way the rain falls without apology. I watched how trees let go of their leaves season after season, without resistance. I watched animals resting without guilt, moving only when it was truly time. And I began to realize nature is never in a hurry, and yet everything unfolds perfectly. So why do we rush? Why do we measure our value by speed, or our worth by how much we can produce? Because we've forgotten what the soul already knows. You are not here to perform. You are here to remember. To remember your gentleness. Your depth. Your truth. Your wholeness. Your place in this miraculous unfolding of existence. I want to offer you a few sacred reminders before we continue further. Let these sink into your bones, not just as words, but as sacred truths. You are not too late. The timing of your awakening is perfect. You are not behind. What you perceive as delay was actually preparation. You are not broken. You are a soul shedding layers that were never truly yours. You are not forgotten. The universe has been waiting patiently for this moment in you, and now you are answering. You are rising, maybe not loudly. Maybe not dramatically, but sincerely, and that is enough. There's one more story I want to leave with you tonight. A traveler once arrived at our monastery, exhausted and angry. He told me, "I've been seeking peace everywhere, and all I find is chaos. I meditate, I fast, I chant, but my heart still hurts." I sat with him in silence. After some time, I said, "Peace is not something you find, it's what returns when you stop trying to control everything." He broke into tears, not out of pain, But because for the first time, he understood. You see, peace is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of alignment. You can be in the middle of a storm and still feel grounded. You can be facing uncertainty and still feel whole. You can be walking into the unknown and still feel held. But this requires one thing: surrender. Not the kind of surrender that means giving up, but the sacred surrender that says, I trust what is unfolding, even if I don't yet understand it. So I ask you now, what is one thing in your life you've been clenching too tightly? What burden are you still carrying that was never yours to hold forever? What would it feel like to let go just a little? You don't need to leap. You only need to release your grip, and in that release, something divine happens. You begin to rise, not because you tried harder, but because you stopped resisting your natural becoming. You are ready now, not because everything is perfect, but because you've decided to be present. And presence is the only real foundation for transformation. So let's continue this sacred journey. In our next page together, we will go deeper into the practices that nurture your awakening, the spiritual habits that keep you grounded, and the truths that illuminate your path in darkness. The road does not end here. In fact, it's only just beginning. You've returned. And in your return, something profound is happening. You're no longer just listening. You're embodying. You're no longer reaching outward for change. You're reaching inward. And that is where all real transformation begins. You've heard the stories. You've sat in the stillness. You've walked through the truths. But now, it's time to live it. At the monastery, we have a word we use often: sadhana. It means spiritual discipline, not as punishment, but as devotion. A sacred structure to hold the soul's longing. You see, awakening is not just about insight, it's about integration. And that only happens through practice. So I want to offer you 3 simple yet powerful practices that have guided my path, not just as a monk but as a human being like you, learning to walk the path of awakening with humility and grace. Practice 1: the morning mirror. Every morning, before the world touches you, before the phone lights up, before the tasks begin, stand before a mirror, not to check your appearance, but to look into your own eyes and ask, am I living in alignment with who I truly am? Some days the answer will be yes, some days the answer will be no, but either way you begin the day with truth. And truth is the foundation of freedom. Practice 2: the breath of return. At any point in the day, when the mind rushes, when emotions rise, when overwhelm visits, pause, close your eyes. Place your hand on your chest, breathe in deeply, and whisper, I am here. Breathe out slowly and whisper, I am safe. This is the breath of return. The breath that brings you back home to the present moment, the only place where peace truly lives. Practice 3: the sacred firance. A week or once a month, create space for release. Light a candle, sit quietly. Take a piece of paper and write down what you're holding on to. What is no longer serving you, what needs to be forgiven, even if it's yourself. Then safely burn the paper, watch the flames rise, watch the smoke carry your burdens into the sky, and as you do, say, I trust that what is gone has done its work. These practices are not magic spells. They are doorways, gentle but powerful doorways back to your soul, back to your center, back to the truth of who you are beyond all the noise. And who you are is not small. You are not your mistakes. You are not your fears. You are not your past. You are the one who witnesses all of it and still chooses love. That is the highest courage. There is a lesson nature teaches us over and over again. Everything flows, nothing is stuck. The river doesn't question where it's going. The sun doesn't hesitate before it rises. The trees don't cling to their leaves once autumn arrives. So why should you? Why should you fear what's leaving? Why should you resist what's arriving? You are a child of the universe, and the same intelligence that governs the stars and oceans is working within you. The reason your life is changing so fast right now is not chaos, it's clarity. A deep clearing is happening within you. The things you once tolerated now feel heavy. The life you once accepted now feels too small. This isn't failure, it's expansion. You are expanding into someone who cannot shrink again. And yes, that might feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is a sacred teacher. Discomfort says, there's more for you than this, and now you know there is. You've seen the signs, you've heard the whispers, you've felt the deep pull in your spirit, saying you can no longer betray your truth just to be accepted. You can no longer delay your healing just to avoid being alone. You can no longer hide your light just to make others comfortable, because your time is now. Your awakening doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. It doesn't need to follow a timeline. It doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be real. And you, dear soul, are as real as it gets. Your tears, your questions, your quiet courage, your soft strength. This is the sacred substance that transforms lives. You are no longer becoming. You are. And in our final moment together, I will offer you something that can never be taken, a transmission of peace, the final reflection, a blessing for the road ahead. But for now, hold this close. You are the miracle. You are the message, you are the shift, and the world is already beginning to respond. And now, we have arrived not at an ending but a return to the deepest truth within you. A return to the essence that was never lost, only quiet. A return to the knowing you've carried all along, that your life is sacred. Your path is guided, and your presence is enough. I want to take this moment not to teach, but to remind. Because the greatest truths are not new, they are ancient. They are the wisdom buried beneath the noise, they are the gentle echoes of the soul we silenced long ago in order to survive. But you're not surviving anymore, are you? You are remembering, and in that remembrance, your life is changing. So fast, so deeply, it doesn't even feel real at times. Because for the first time, you are not chasing, you are allowing. Not pushing, but receiving, not grasping, but surrendering. And this, my dear friend, is the flow of awakening. Let me offer you something now, not a lesson, not a parable, just a space. Stay still. Sacred space for you to breathe into everything you've experienced. Across these moments, close your eyes now if you can. Let your shoulders fall, let your jaw relax, let your chest open and your breath deepen. And with every inhale, say inwardly, I am here, and with every exhale, release the words, and here is enough. Do this again. Breathe in, I am here. Breathe out, and here is enough. This is the mantra that will carry you forward. Through the changing tides, through the shifting winds, through the dismantling of what once was and the unfolding of what is meant to be. Before I became a monk, I had dreams. Dreams of being someone, of doing something big, of making the world see me. But the more I chased the world's approval, the more I felt hollow. It was only in the stillness, in the letting go of who I thought I had to be, that I discovered who I already was. Not a name, not a title, not an image, but a vessel, a space where peace could live, where love could speak, where wisdom could move freely. And now, I see that in you. You are that vessel. You are the space where light enters and expands. So don't rush to fill yourself with more. Don't rush to become anything new. Instead, empty of doubt, empty of proving, empty of pretending. And from that empty space, let your life pour forth naturally, joyfully, honestly. If there's one truth I could leave you with forever, it is this: you are not here to chase purpose. You are here to embody it. Your presence is the purpose. Your peace is the power. Your truth is the path. There is no one else to become. There is only more of you to remember. So walk slowly now, breathe deeply, speak kindly. And know that you are guided. You are loved. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are the sacred unfolding of something vast and eternal. And this life, this beautiful, chaotic, accelerating life, is not happening to you. It's happening through you. You are not the storm. You are the calm inside of it. You are not the fear. You are the awareness holding it. You are not lost. You are just beginning to see. This is the moment you begin again. And this time, you do so awake. Your life is about to change so fast it won't feel real. And that is the greatest blessing of all. Goodbye for now, dear soul. May your path be light. May your heart be whole. And may your spirit always, always remember who you truly are. If this journey touched you, reflect on it, sit with it. Return to it whenever you need. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let others feel less alone in their awakening. And if your heart calls you back here, subscribe and walk with us again. This is the final page of the series, but your journey continues. Always.